So the one thing I definitely would have changed about my first year of climbing is it's made me completely quit my job, and it gives you a false sense of security into believing that the hold is better than it was before, when really it doesn't do anything. Hi, my name's Mike Boyd, and I'm a professional climbing punter, and today I'm going to be answering some of the questions from the internet, and apparently we have a special guest, so let's get started. Best way to go from V3 to V4? I feel like V3 to V4 is like, V3 is like, yeah, you could, a beginner could do it, but V4 is like you're starting to get into real climbing now. Really, the best way to do it is to actually find a V4 that suits you and just do that. But I guess that's kind of not the answer you were looking for there. I guess V4 is where like the vast majority of new climbers start actually having to really work it. And I would say that for me, the best way was just to start projecting routes, as in spending multiple sessions on one route. For some people, that can be boring and demotivating, but I really like it. I really like making micro progress and getting one hold higher and stuff like that. So yeah, projecting is the way to do it. And effective projecting strategy will go a long way in climbing. That's what I found. It's something I'm really weak at, something I'm poor at, but I'm getting better at it and I'm seeing results. What does brushing do? Brushing is something that climbers do all the time, and it gives you a false sense of security into believing that the hold is better than it was before, when really it doesn't do anything. No, brushing removes chalk, dust, and anything else that will prevent you from having optimum grip on the rock. In some areas, people think that people brush too much though, and you're actually changing the shape of the rock, and it can be a bit of a problem, especially on boulders. But basically, it improves the grip a little bit. Questions from a special guest. Right. Special guest. Who's the special guest? It's Matt, right? Rung the athlete, Matt, right. I love Matt. We spent one day climbing together, and I think my grade went up 2. He's a fantastic, unbelievably strong climber. Probably the most shredded climber in the world. I think he might actually be the most shredded.
So, we have our first question. What's been your favourite climbing experience?
My favourite climbing experience? I think the favourite thing I've ever done when I'm climbing is doing E1 with Tom Randall. That was such an insane battle. Not only was I jamming, which I never ever do, I was also placing gear and falling on it for the first time, and ticking my first E1 on an absolute classic in the Peak District. And it just didn't really feel like it was going to go. And crack climbing is like a battle of attrition. So you can really grit your teeth and get into it. And I feel like that is probably my most satisfying send ever. So Left Unconquerable Stanage, if you're ever down there, definitely give it a go. Safe as houses and a bit of a battle. Brilliant. How much chalk do I need? I would say I use probably too much chalk, but you just need enough to coat your hands in a thin layer. And there's no chalk that is better than Rungni Magdust. William Jenkins 7584, excellent username. Most effective way to learn a skill you have found, be it climbing, technique, being able to wheelie or anything in between. The most effective way I've found to learn skills, especially climbing skills, not just getting stronger but actually learning a skill, is to do really short sessions often rather than massive sessions, because I feel like you really want to keep the quality of your learning experience high. So if you're doing these massive long epic sessions of, say you're trying to wheelie a bike or something, eventually you just get fatigued and the second half of your session is just almost a waste of time. Half hour really short sessions. So with climbing, I've found that basically the best time to learn technique is just in the 20-minute, 30-minute warm-up that you do. So for a while I had some really big problem with drop knees. So I just started doing drop knees on really easy stuff at the start of my session as a warm-up, and I feel like they've come on a long way. They've still got a long way to go, but it's coming on. So short and sweet is the way to do it. Do girls like climbers? So I've thought about this, okay? I think if you're talking about attraction between two people, I think that non-climbers think that climbers are either psychopaths or just dirtbags. So I would say that if you're trying to woo someone who's not a climber, it's going to be a tough gig for you. However, other climbers, someone who is very, very proficient on the wall, I think that could be attractive to a potential partner. So I would say yes.
How has climbing changed your life, positively and negatively, if at all?
How has climbing changed my life, positively and negatively? I guess let's start with the negative. It's made me completely quit my job and just focus on climbing entirely, which has had a huge financial impact on my life. But that's the negatives. The positives are I spend all of my time climbing with friends, doing exercise, getting stronger outside, and I feel like I'm just constantly winning. Like I'm always projecting something, making some progress on that project, ticking that project, traveling up here, working on this project. Like it's just a constant carousel of like successes. Like I'm always progressing, and it just feels absolutely fantastic. And it's given me loads more confidence, just in life. I feel fitter, I feel stronger. I'm watching what I eat more. Like I don't drink anymore really at all. Yeah, it's had a huge impact on my life. And just like digging deep and trying really hard on a hard route is like a skill, and I feel like it's just so transferable. Yeah, it's made a massive impact on my life. Just even the social side of it, the physical side of it. Just I'm so grateful that I found it, really. And I'm not even climbing for 3 years yet, and I just can't imagine my life if I didn't climb. Like it doesn't really compute. So yeah, huge negative impact, but also huge positive impact. Andrea 2. How much do you train for power strength to reach 7A, 7B? That's 7A, 7B sport. I would say I actually didn't really train power strength. I think the only thing I would say I've actually trained is a little bit of hangboard and finger strength. But as for like pulling power, I didn't actually do that much. And that's because the 7As and 7Bs that I've done are not actually that powerful. They're more about endurance and finger strength. I found that at that grade, I could get a lot more out of just being very precise with my feet and training my fingers and learning where to rest and how to rest and just being fitter. So as for when you're talking about power strength, I'm assuming you're talking about campusing and weighted pull-ups and all that stuff. I don't really do that stuff. But then again, I only climb 7B, so. Shay Bendor. Hey, this is Shy. This is Shy. When are you coming to Catalonia for some sport climbing? Well, I've actually already been, and I did have to Google this. Costa Blanca is Catalonia. That's why everyone was speaking Catalan there. And I just thought it was amazing, like absolutely incredible limestone crags, not even that busy, perfect weather. Catalonia is somewhere I will be going for the rest of my life. Catalonia, love it. Do you need to be strong, tall to be a climber? From what I've learned, no, I'm not tall, and I'm not particularly strong, but I've seen very short, weak people do incredibly well at climbing. I think particularly at the low grades, you can tech your way through a lot of stuff. Really see this with like new girls into climbing who are not tall. They tend to be much better than new guys at climbing, and I think that's because they're teching their way through stuff. So no, you don't need to be strong or tall to be a climber, for sure. I mean, what's Sean Rabatou? Sean Rabatou is like 5'6", but he's incredibly strong. But you don't need to, definitely don't think you need to be tall. Strength will come. Do climbers speak their own language? Climbers definitely speak their own language. Like, we've invented a complete new language for climbing. So what are there? There's beta, guppy, crimp, sloper. Is psyched? Do people say psyched outside the climbing? People say stoked and stuff, but psyched, I've only heard climbers say that. What else is there? There's fingery, crosley, knee bar, edging, smedging, bat hang, pink point, blue point, red point, head point, flash. dog, lead, top rope, bottom rope. there's just a complete infinite list of just climbing related language that no one else could understand. You know what I heard the other day I thought was great was day flash. Day flashes means you got it on the first day. Just trying to cling to any sort of progression. Day flash, I like that.
If you could have done one thing differently during your first year of climbing, what would that have been?
So the one thing I definitely would have changed about my first year of climbing is I wouldn't have bought shoes that are too small and too extreme downturned and asymmetric. I would have stuck with a reasonable beginner shoe that is comfortable and learned footwork properly. I was under the impression that my problems were because of my cheap, well, they weren't even cheap, because of my beginner shoes. And that's not true at all. And I messed up my feet and I don't think they'll ever be fixed because they're really bad. So yeah, I regret doing that. And you know what? Everyone told me not to do that. But I didn't listen because I thought they were wrong. And they weren't. Sam Comas. And the question is, what helped you most progress in crack climbing? I would say I haven't really progressed in crack climbing. I did do some days with Pete Whitaker and Tom Randall, both parts of the Wide Boys channel, and yeah, crack climbing's hard. So I feel like the first day when I was with Pete working on cracks, I just found it incredibly difficult. I'd never done anything like that before, and I really wouldn't say I was getting anywhere with it, except from just learning what the basic technique is of the, I think it's called, it's not paddle hands. Is this thin hands? I always forget what they're called. But basically, I only learned really one technique, and that was to take your thumb and try to put it to your pinky, so it makes this part of your hand really fat. And then you're like, as if it was a sloper, you're like pressing against the wall like that. It's really, really hard. And then what Tom and Pete both told me was to sort of pull down to seat it in the crack, and then incredibly painfully you can weight that. And with Tom, I finally feel like I was able to actually use it on rock. Also, I feel like climbing on rock is easier than climbing on the Wide Boys volumes, or at least the rock I was doing. Those Wide Boys volumes, they are excellent for training, but they are hard to use, man. They're just straight, and there's no like little bumps or imperfections. Whereas on the rock, there's always kind of something that's a little bit better. What should I do if I get scared while climbing? Can of worms there. I guess let's just imagine they're talking about lead climbing. This is a massive subject that something I've struggled with since I've started climbing, and only now is it just starting to get a little bit better. But basically, I found that just slightly edging out of your comfort zone and then coming back in and then out and then in again with lead climbing was the way to go, rather than being absolutely terrified from the start. Small incremental steps outside your comfort zone with lead climbing definitely helped me, rather than just jumping in the deep end. So what that looked like in practice for me would be like, for example, going bolt to bolt on a climb rather than just trying to flash it. I know flashing and on-sighting is a skill in itself, but if you're really dealing with fear, I find that going bolt to bolt helps. Try to avoid top roping. I found that top roping gave me a false sense of security, which actually didn't help me in the long run. And then taking small falls on areas that you're worried about, and finding out what the fall would feel like, gradually increasing the falls until you're happy that you can fall there and you're going to survive. You need to like trick your brain into thinking this is going to be okay. It's a difficult thing. Lots of people approach it in different ways. That's the way that I've found works for me. But yeah, it's not something to be overlooked. Difficult thing to overcome.
What has been the most useful skill that has helped improve your climbing?
I would describe the skill as not climbing square on, which sounds a bit weird, but if you watch any pro climber, whenever they can, whenever it makes sense, they are climbing with their hip really close to the wall, and their hips are not facing the wall. And learning to do that, that's like the first thing that you learn when you're becoming like a little bit more proficient, and your grade just goes through the roof as soon as you learn that. That has been the single most useful thing I've learned. And some people don't even need to learn that, but I needed to like be told and then work on it. That's the most useful thing I've learned, for sure. Andreas Arnsberger, sorry. Kind of murdered your name there. How much time on average do you spend climbing per week? So I think I try to do day on, day off. So like, that would be like 3.5 days a week. I know that doesn't really make sense. And I've actually recently tried to shorten my sessions. So I try, in the bouldering gym, I try to keep it below 2 hours. That's including the whole warm up and everything. So it's actually not that much time on the wall. Obviously, when you're sport climbing or bouldering outside, there's a lot of faffage around the actual climbing. So I would say the actual time I spend like climbing is probably between 6 and 8 hours a week climbing. Also, so that's reduced from like 12 hours a week, and I feel like I've progressed more by doing a little bit less higher intensity. Less is more sometimes. Do climbers make better lovers? I think climbing makes you happy, and if you're happy, you're going to love better. That's all I got to say.
What's your favourite Scottish crag?
What's my favourite Scottish crag? I think my favourite Scottish crag is Weem in Aberfeldy. It has fantastic sport routes that are really steep. It has brilliant sport routes that are slabby, and just down from it, there's excellent boulders. Like, what's not to love? And it's in the forest. Like, so it's sheltered. It's just wonderful. It's beautiful. I love it there. It's the best. I did a 7A plus there, and I think it's the best route I've done in Scotland. I would like to get a bit higher in the grades so that I could try more classic crags, but right now Weem is taking the win. Marky123, my question is, do you prefer indoor or outdoor climbing, and why? Outdoor climbing, because it's way better. I like the social aspect of indoor climbing. I like getting a coffee. I like chilling on the mats and chatting to people, but I just don't like the feel of plastic holds. It just doesn't feel as good or as satisfying to top a boulder. But my biggest gripe with indoor climbing, and this is something that is inherent with indoor climbing, is that I want nice long-term projects I can come back to, and really with indoor climbing you've only got 6 weeks before they reset it. Whereas outdoor climbing, there is a boulder that you can go back to 25 years later, and it will mostly, if stuff wasn't broken off, be exactly the same. Also with outdoor climbing, I found that there's often, if it's like a reachy problem, there's often something I can do. Some sneaky little beta or some terrible little foothold I can use to gain a little bit more reach. Whereas indoor, I feel like they kind of have to not make it reachy, or if it is reachy, you just have to deal with the reach problem. I feel like there's a lot more options in outdoor bouldering, and I really like that problem solving, and there's a lot more betas. But I mean, let's be real, you can't get good at outdoor climbing without climbing indoors these days. You need to be doing both. Oxygen. I'm going to my first ever session this weekend. Should I buy some expensive bouldering shoes to begin with that will last, or just stick with the rentals for a while? Yeah, just stick with the rentals. The thing about expensive bouldering shoes is they actually last less time than a cheap pair, because I found that, like, particularly indoor bouldering shoes are made of really soft rubber that just wear out really quickly. So if you are going to buy shoes, don't buy expensive high-end like performance shoes to start with. Just buy like beginner shoes, because they tend to be of harder rubber, and for now that's going to be fine for you. Also, the rentals, they're going to stink, but they're going to be alright. How can I get stronger? What a fantastic question. I guess let's look at this from a beginner's climber's point of view. I think the best thing you can do is just climb a lot and try to not get injured. Yeah, I think many intense but short sessions is the way to get stronger. But you want to be climbing as many different types of boulders, routes, rock types as you can, and spend a lot of time in your apprenticeship when you're beginning on rock if you can. That's what I like doing. That's how I got stronger anyway.
Who is your favourite climbing coach? Don't be biased.
Who's my favourite climbing coach? So just to reiterate, I've had coaching from a number of extremely strong climbers. So Dave McLeod, Hazel Finley, Tom Randall, Pete Whitaker, Matt Wright. That is a pretty good apprenticeship, and each of these guys was teaching me something different, and I was like at different stages in my climbing journey. So I absorbed so much of them. For example, Hazel was teaching me how to deep water solo. Dave was teaching me how to trad climb. So was Pete and Tom. And even within those trad climbs, I was at a hugely different level when I met all those guys. And Matt was really working on boulders with me. So I'm afraid, Matt, I just can't answer that question. Everyone I've worked with has been an absolutely fantastic coach. And I think all of them have climbed like E10. I think all those guys have climbed E10 or E11, which is insane to think that all of them have climbed E10. Yeah, it's been a pretty good apprenticeship.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me, Mike. I'll speak to you real soon. Let's get a climb together.
Thanks very much, Matt. Thanks for the questions. Can't wait to climb with you.